Hey guys, this is another update for the Araby Army. This video is going to be, I believe, a bit shorter. I only managed to add about 3 new fully painted and varnished models to the army. But more importantly, I have my favorite miniature done, and I'll go in more detail about it. It's the first model you're seeing in the video. And hopefully within the next week or two, I have a small 500 point force ready to play some battle reports to share with you guys. So let's go on to the basically king of my army. So guys, here is the model I'm talking about. It is basically my Sultan King or a noble for my Araby army. And this model is kind of special because I've known about this model for I'd say 5 years. And something about him always got me interested. So let me zoom in a little bit. So this guy actually is, if I'm not mistaken, the Citadel 01 unlisted fighter. So he didn't have a name, and he came from the range of fighters that I want to say are based more on historical accurate clothing. So the scale was a little bit small. So you're gonna see me kind of connect the video to some work in progress videos I took of the creation. So I took this model, and as you can see, he looks very regal. He's very distinct, very unique with his clothing and even pose. I think poses that have such a resting and simple look are usually my favorite actually. So I took the model here, and you'll see me talk a bit more in detail. But I should note the work in progress video is a bit inaccurate. As I was building him, his feet looked a little bit bird-like according to my fiance Sam, and every time I was looking at him, and you'll see it in the work in progress, he just looked odd. So while painting, I had to slice both feet off, kind of reposition it, and I think I'm much happier with it. So I basically primarisized my noble to make him more accurate to heights of these guys. So as I mentioned, he's from the Citadel 01 fighter, and they are a decently sized shorter than the rest of the models. So just to make him match, I had to increase his height with these new boots. And I'll go in more detail, but the conversions included sculpting this pseudo turban to match my Saracens, adding the red-tailed hawk again, and then adding the 2 boots. But the rest of the model actually is stock, and I think he is such a lovely miniature, a lot of nice detail, and I'm really happy with the color scheme. He does stand out a lot. He kind of looked very odd to say. He looks like a character from an anime I used to love watching called Escaflowne. He looks like the Duke Freed, if you know that character, and I'll probably throw an image up here. But also he looks a lot like a little bit Mongolian, a little bit from maybe Russia, all these different elements. But because he was so unique, I really wanted to use this model, and my Araby army seemed like a perfect fit to use him, especially because he has the mustache that matches all of my other Saracen miniatures. So really happy with the pose once again, and very excited to use him in games. Painting wise, I opted to put the pink around the border of the cloth. I had a lot of fun painting the blue gem effects, and I think color-wise, it actually worked fairly well. I made both the sword and he has a bow. Both handles are going to be a almost bone white wood color. I think makes him look very distinct. And he has this beautiful golden dragon for the helmet. So I actually do like him a lot because he looks like the opposite of the New Bretonian, I think Worm Knight, whatever you call him, that Duke. And in my headcanon, I'll eventually make a name for him when I have my whole army done. I want to say this guy was like a veteran of the First Crusade in the Warhammer lore. So I'm really happy with how he looks. And let me turn him around. So you can see he has a lot of lovely detail, and you can see more of my red-tailed hawk painting. I kind of like making my animals not so detailed, just to make them look quote-unquote real, and I'm really happy with how fast it is to paint the little hawk. I think it adds a lot of character to the model, and I'm really happy about the blue I chose for his little back cloth sash things. And overall, I think the pose, it's quite well, it's very well sculpted. I wish I knew who the sculptor was, especially with the helmet, the facial features. So everything about this miniature just looks amazing, and I'm really, really happy to have him part of the army. And he is distinct enough that when you look at him in the whole group shot, which I'll have later in the video, you can clearly tell he is either a leader or an important character. It does help having the hawk on his shoulders. Again, the whole idea is to have every single character with the red-tailed hawk. I am trying to lean a lot more into the lore of Araby. So this army I will take to the Richmond Open. That's why I'm really putting a lot of effort and love into it. But at the same time, I want to make the army as lore quote-unquote accurate as possible, which also means I won't be taking the most optimized units. So the next model is actually the Tang Tiger from Citadel. And I lied, guys, so this is the behind the scenes. This is a Norse warrior from Citadel, and this was a perfect miniature. He has the hawk that I wanted and the 2 feet, and here is the fighter before he was converted. So he's much more squat before the Primaris sized boot upgrade that I'm about to show a little bit about. Yeah, so for this part, I'm showing I cut the hawk off of the Norse warrior's arm, and with some, careful patience, I grabbed some files and I had to file it down. And throughout the process, I kept dry fitting the hawk onto the shoulder of the fighter, just to make sure I had a very good connection point. And I'm showing this dark elf. Originally, I was going to use his boots, but I ended up not liking what it looked like. But it's always good to show all the steps I took before I made my decision. And here's the fighter with the foot Primaris boot upgrade. He has a wider stance. That's before I again made another adjustment to the model. And here he is with the green stuff turban. The hawk on the shoulder had to fill the gap to make it look seamless. And here's the feet. Once again, like I said, he looked a little bit too wide stanced and bird-like. So during the painting process, I grabbed my clippers, sliced at the feet, and made it what you see as the final product. So up next we have the Tang Tiger from Citadel, and I showed this model a while ago from one of my showcases, and I'm really happy with how it came out. So I really focused on making it as natural as possible with the painting, and a little bit inspired by the Lions of Tsavo. There is a real-life incident, unfortunately, and a great movie that has the 2 Lions of Tsavo, the man-eaters, and they terrorized basically I believe a mining operation, and unfortunately many individuals did pass away. But the 2 lions, I really think it's quite distinct, especially with their hairless manes. And when I saw my tiger miniature, I knew I wanted to paint them to match at least one of the Lions of Tsavo. And I think I managed to get it decently well looking. A lot of quick blending. I didn't want to spend too much time on the miniature. I had a lot more fun painting, I'd say, the white underneath. And if I can get the face, I had a lot of fun painting like the derpy tiger's face and everything. So the whole idea is with the other Araby character I painted in the first update, I want her to be kind of leading a group of tigers, and the army will be using probably the Dark Elf army book, and these tigers will be my Blood Rack Medusas. I think it's pretty cool to actually incorporate them, and in the lore of Araby, they actually use a lot of big tigers or big cats in the army. So they do have leopards, tigers, and a very unique big cat that's native to Araby. I forgot the name, I'm kind of blanking on it. So this is the first one I have painted. Again, this was produced by Citadel for the Eternal Champions range of miniatures, and I will be having a couple more, and each tiger model will be painted slightly different for like a real life animal. So one will be painted as an actual tiger, another one might be painted as a leopard, and the fourth one might be painted as a Black Panther. This kind of also gives the idea that, Araby, because they're a country that deals with, slave trade and other kind of merchant trade, I assume that a lot of exotic animals go through the region. So I want to incorporate that into this army. So these will be my Bloodrack Medusas. Really happy with the model. Definitely have 3 more lined up to paint. And the last miniature to update is just another immortal from my Janissary unit. And here are the Janissaries. So you saw this guy here from the first update. This is my second Janissary. Again, I used the same base model. It is a Citadel Advanced Dungeon & Dragon Hobgoblin. And like with the first guy, I had to carve the face, add the cloth and the waistcloth around. And other than that, I'm getting kind of used to converting this pose and this model. And I know some people might say, oh, it's the same pose with just a slightly different weapon, but I like how my elite unit looks regimented. And in fact, I think most of my Araby, because I am using these old miniatures, they will kind of be stock looking, but I think that's the charm of the old school miniatures. But at the same time, a lot of modern miniatures have the same, regimented look. It's fantasy after all, so they'll be in a rank and file. But not much more to add to this specific miniature, just because you've seen my in-depth behind the scenes for this guy. Fairly same way of converting him. Color-wise, I'm really enjoying the crazy amount of bright colors I'm adding. It kind of makes me feel like I could use these miniatures for any army now, not just Dark Elves. So if I do play Warriors of Chaos, I could maybe use these guys as Chosen, and just say they're Mark of Tzeentch, because in the lore of Araby, they were influenced by a Lord of Change or that one specific guy. So the Immortal unit's coming pretty well. I plan to at least have 12 of these guys minimum, and I guess I should note, this unit I will be counting as either Blackguards of Nagaroth or Executioners. I think it's cool. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they have Drilled. So it's cool to have my elite Immortal, unit that can kind of have some cool special rules to go along with them. So let's wrap up the video with all the miniatures I've painted so far. So here's a quick overview of all the miniatures I've painted for Araby so far. I'm pretty happy. The force is actually starting to look like an actual Warhammer army, and I'm just really happy. Let me move the tiger real fast. I'm really happy with how everything's coming along. I feel like really by the end of a week or two, I'll have a small playable force. So I have 2 heroes, a start of an elite unit, my core, and a rare unit. So overall, pretty happy about how much is being completed in a pretty short time. And again, I have so many other projects that I can't spend too much time on one specific project. But overall, I think Araby is making huge progress, and I'm really happy to continue to share it with you guys. So please let me know what you think about the army, any other conversion ideas that might work for this faction, and hopefully within the next month and a half, I'll have a respectable sized army that I can play in actual events.